Welcome to another edition of PodJerky, and on today's episode, we are going to continue our theme of misconceptions from around the world. We have already done an episode on Canada, and we've done an episode on the United States of America. Today, we are doing misconceptions from the UK, and we are joined by Ian, Liam, and Georgia from Best Film Ever. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey, thanks a lot for having us. Yeah.
So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a brief background on your show?
looking to Liam like he was going to do it. Best film ever. I mean, in a nutshell, its genesis is in the idea that, I mean, I teach film studies and Liam here does not. Nope. And he's kind of a regular Joe. And it's just kind of as a group of friends, and Georgia joined, and Ellie, who's not with us today, joined as well. And we're just a group of friends who just like movies a lot, and we'd sort of have these big discussions about films after we'd done watch them. We thought, well, what if we actually were like documenting this and came up with some sort of, way to actually compare these films that we all kind of hold in high regard. And so therefore a podcast was more or less born. We do kind of king-sized film reviews where we get right deep in. And we had the pleasure of having Tom from PodJerky here on our last episode, which was a lot of fun. And it's just great to have these discussions and engage in a much wider conversation, which we're thrilled to be a part of.
Yeah, and like you said in the episode, we had met through a Facebook group, and I think I made a comment about liking one of your episodes because I think your podcasts are fantastic, really well done, and really informative. And you guys dig into the movies, and I enjoy listening to most of your episodes. And my wife's actually become a fan of it as well.
Oh, we love Mrs. Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have a listen to Angels with Dirty Faces?
Our most obscure title ever. I was convinced it was going to sink the podcast, and it actually did okay.
It's done really well.
I still actually have to get around to the Wonder Woman episode. I haven't gotten to that one yet, and I want to hear that one.
I'm not kind to it. Just a spoiler there.
Well, the Wonder Woman 1984 one I was not impressed with. So,
well, that's what I hear. And so I was watching the first one going, well, this one's highly regarded. So I'm like, well, at least we'll watch the good one. And then I was convinced there was like a third one that had been made that I completely missed because, I mean, I'm not going to bury a lead. Like, go listen to it and you get to hear me rant for quite a while. It's not too often on Best Film Ever I rant about the films being that poor. But I was sitting there going, where is this great DC film that I was told was here? So, yeah, we're usually very positive and we usually gush about the films. This was not that case.
I think it was much better than the second one. That's all I'm going to say for that one.
Oh, I'm sure. See, that's the problem. I will never watch the second one.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to watch the second one.
Oh yeah, because you went to the cinema and then like the projector broke or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then we went into lockdown.
There were greater forces at play that are helping you.
Yeah. I'd still rather have seen it.
Yeah. So I was traveling under the misconception that Wonder Woman was a good film. And so,
I still like it for her.
But that's not a UK misconception.
No, well, no, that's sort of a...
Nicely segued.
I was setting them up there. I'm going to get us back on topic here.
It's like a tennis match.
All right. So we'll get into the misconceptions from the UK. And Ian, you're originally from Canada and you moved over there. And Liam and Georgia, where are you guys from in the UK?
I am Norfolk born and bred.
Yeah,
I've not moved.
No, same town.
And is that where you guys are? You guys are there right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So I've actually been to England. I have been to Southall, and I've been to Maidenhead, and I've been to London. I mean, I think Southall is like west of Western London, but I've been to those three places.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've actually got to visit those places in London. I really liked it in London, though.
People tend to.
Yeah,
I like touristy London.
Yeah, I like touristy.
I like theatre land. Yeah.
There's lots of parts of London I might not be so thrilled to end up in.
Yeah.
I guess most big cities, though, you have your neighborhoods and usually your commercial areas that you'd want to hang out in.
Yeah.
And then you have those areas you're like, I really don't want to, unless you're Detroit, in which case everywhere is like that.
Right.
Yeah. In Detroit, I've never been more scared that I was driving through Detroit. We took a wrong turn and went right through it.
Motor City.
Oh, I was no. Like I'm sure the bit where the baseball stadiums were. I was like, I'm not stopping for a light or a stop sign. We are just driving.
Aren't they trying to rejuvenate that place?
Probably.
I think I saw a program a few years back. They were saying they're trying to get it all back to nice living areas and stuff.
Oh.
And they're just taking each project, each little bit, year by year type thing until they get around to making it a bit like Bronx.
Okay, yeah, because they did a good job sort of fixing that.
And they'll finish that project in 2050?
Probably.
On the 30th of February.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Okay,
going down.
so we got a bunch of misconceptions that I actually researched and looked up.
Oh, excellent.
What do you guys hear a lot of from there that people have misconceptions of?
Well, I don't know what you guys hear. I mean, you guys are more likely to be the natives, so you guys run into people from elsewhere. What do you guys hear?
We hear a lot of things like everyone automatically assumes we're from London.
Yeah.
So whenever,
Which part of London are you from?
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
get that from other people in England as well. So we're all as bad as each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're like, no, I'm not nowhere near London. So when you say like you're a few train rides away from London, like they kind of cope with that, okay?
It's also how you have to measure. It's also how you have to measure distance to anybody. If they go, well, where are you from? And you have to go, well, where's that in regards to London? So you go, okay, so in London, about an hour and a half, like northeast.
Yeah.
But it's like start me in London and go from there. Because that's all they know is, I guess they've seen like a globe and they know roughly where King's Landing is on the map. And they go, where are we from there?
I always say we're the butt of England.
Yeah, the little like divot that's on the right hand side of the country.
The bulge.
We're there.
The bulge.
Yeah, the bulge.
Even worse.
Well, it's a different part of the body, from the back to the front.
And is it kind of like an Ontario thing when somebody says, "Are you from you're from Ontario? Where in Toronto are you from?"
Yeah, you do kind of. Actually, if I was from, whenever someone asks me where I actually over here, when they go, where are you from Canada? I say, well, we're about an hour and a half, northwest of Toronto, because they all know where Toronto is roughly, or at least they nod and pretend they do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's the
that's
same
more
with me.
accurate.
Yeah, it's the same with me. Nobody knows where I'm from. They'll always say, "Where's that?" I'm like, I'm a half hour away from Toronto, and that's just the explanation.
They just go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
People seem to accept it.
Yeah.
Sometimes get away with about 40 minutes from Cambridge. Some people will accept that one just because
They'll at least
Cambridge
go,
has been in
I
the-
probably should. It's because people are so afraid of going, I don't know where Cambridge is. They just go, oh.
Yeah.
And when they hear Cambridge, they're going,
Oh,
London.
yeah, that place. Yeah.
Cambridge equals London.
Think Stephen Hawkins.
But if you said Cambridge here,
Hawking.
we would say Cambridge, Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of Cambridge in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was part of the, actually, if I may, that was part of the old way of how you get people to move from the UK, England specifically, to the New World, is you go, okay, what can we do? We can name cities after places they're familiar with. So even though you're not close to the crown and your family, you can sort of go, well, it's our Cambridge and it's like our version of England over here. And eventually, that tie sort of gets destroyed, but the city names remain the same.
No, that's cool.
That's why Kitchener, Ontario was originally called Berlin.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, until
Wow.
World War I happens, and they go, don't really like the idea that it's named, but like Kitchener's like a non-German word. It's just not Berlin.
And there's also a Paris, Ontario. So
Oh yeah, it was all of them. It's surprising. There's a town over here called Brampton, but Brampton, England, is much smaller than Brampton, Canada now. So it's weird to see it sort of on the other side. Such is.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so another misconception that I have heard a lot of is that I know you guys are going to argue with this because you guys will say we don't have accents. You guys have accents, but everyone's accent is the same over there.
Oh no, there is so
Whoa.
many different accents
See,
over
Liam and I
here.
were having this conversation
We were
just
having a
before because we're like, we should
conversation,
come on with some preparation. We should. And I would say, because I was trying to explain to them, I said, from a Canadian perspective, when I would hear, the Gallagher brothers from Manchester or Prince William from London, it sounded the same. But everyone's going, what are you talking about? And I'm going, well, no, because you don't, because you guys are so attuned to those little individual idiosyncrasies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But from a North American perspective, you all just sound the same at that point. It took me forever living here to distinguish some of the subtleties between London and Norfolk.
It's a bit like us thinking of Canadians and Americans. Sometimes we find it difficult to distinguish your accents.
Well, it took me until recently to tell the difference myself between a homogenous American accent, that sort of mainstream television American accent, and the mainstream Canadian Toronto accent, if you will. Because, they say it's about the oohs, and it's not really that. Nor can I make everybody just say, can you say a boot for me? Just so I can make sure I can hear that. But it was more about, there's a certain liltingness. My mom used to refer to it as a lilting in the Canadian accent. And I hear it now. I do.
Yeah.
So
maybe that comes with experience.
I think so. But but from back from the perspective, like the English do sound similar. Like, I think it's important that we go, what we're talking about aren't so much British stereotypes as they are largely English stereotypes. Yeah. Because you can definitely tell an English person from a Scottish person.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Sure.
Yes. But I have lived down in Norfolk, and for 6 months I lived up near Liverpool, which is 200 miles north of where we are. And that accent is completely different to where I am down here. But I remember talking to Ian on the phone like a couple of days after I'd been there, and apparently my accent slipped into a very northern accent because it was just who I'd been surrounded by for the last 2 days. And so my accent slipped. So I guess some people's change really quite quickly.
Well, the question is that the accents can't change. I think it's just the idea that to the untrained ear, we don't hear the differences.
Yeah.
So
which is insane because to me, I'm going, they are completely different.
Yep. I don't know what it is. Just that English kind of, I mean, if I'm being honest, living in Canada, I don't know how many times I mistook an English accent for an Australian accent.
Yeah, you get that a lot.
I went up to randoms and went, what part of England are you from? And they went the Australian part. And I went, oh, shoot. Sorry, man.
A little corner of the flag.
Yeah.
That happens if you go up north here, if you go to like Yorkshire or whatever and speak with our accent, people think the northern people think you're Australian.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I was up in Yorkshire and Scarborough and in September, and so a few kids just heard a group of us talking, and they said, "Are you from Australia?" I'm like, "No, this is just what us Southerners sound like." They'd be like, oh, "Okay, I thought you're from Australia." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
But do you guys think you have an accent?
Well,
I'm aware of mine only because the rest of my family sound very much like they're from Norfolk, which is a different sounding to how I sound. They're very much more common. I get called posh niece by my aunt because I don't sound as Norfolk as them. So Norfolk's more of think of like an English pirate is kind of where I'd go with the Norfolk accent.
I'm not very much
lots of tratters and fields.
There is. I'm not very much a Norfolk talking person myself in Norfolk, but when I go out of Norfolk or I go different parts of the world, I realize how Norfolk I really am. So when I hear myself back when I'm talking to people, I realize, oh, I sound very Norfolk there.
Well, I think one of the unique things about England and the UK at large, but specifically maybe England, is that you can go, Tom, 20 minutes down the road and the accent will be different, which is much different from Ontario, where, you know, the accent in Whitby versus the accent in Sarnia versus the accent in Sudbury are probably quite similar.
Right.
Because you don't have those sort of hard-pressed regionalities, and TV makes everybody sound the same, and because we all get our ears attuned the same way. So I think people here are much more aware of the fact that we all have little idiosyncrasies because there isn't a homogenous English accent. So we're all aware of your respective accents versus someone who might be literally half an hour down the road. West Norfolk sounds different from East Norfolk, sounds different from Suffolk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so and these are all regions that would be a Canadian commute, and yet you'll run into 3 or 4 different accents just in that locale.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I always say to myself, I don't have an accent. And if you speak to any American, they will tell you, oh my God, yes, you do. You have a pure Canadian accent. We can tell you're from Canada.
You sound much more Canadian than Ian does. I must put that
is that right? That's quite interesting.
Yeah. I don't notice, Ian, your accent particularly much anymore. But I think that's because I'm attuned to it. But yeah, Tom's is very Canadian.
I don't hear your accents, but if I meet a stranger here, I'm more likely to sort of have to decipher the accent. So I think it comes time to just being attuned to people.
It is, because I can remember as a child watching American programs, and I'd struggle to listen to every single word. When nowadays there's so many more American programs over here now that we naturally just hear. We just hear it now. Yeah. We're just more attuned to it now. We're back when I was a kid. Just select shows like Cheers or Friends and stuff like that, Baywatch, there are very few shows, unless they were big hits, made it over here. So now there's a hell of a lot more. So we're exposed to it a lot more.
Yeah.
And you got to watch Friends and Baywatch at the same time on the same show, right?
You can watch the Friends, watch Baywatch.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have a program over here called Gogglebox, and Gogglebox is you watch regular people as they watch television
and their reactions,
and it's more about watching them react. But I think Friends was like the original concept of this. Let's watch Chandler and Joey watch Baywatch and see their reactions to it.
Absolutely.
So there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Another one of the misconceptions I read about, and I don't believe this, but the beer is always warm.
I'm not a drinker of beer, but unless you put it in the fridge, it's warm. Yeah. From what I can tell.
There is ale.
Oh yeah, there's ale.
And ale, which is typically stout, but these are typically non-carbonated beers.
Yeah, so they would be warmer.
So they sometimes are served at room temperature because they're just sitting in casks or in casks in wooden barrels, really.
Yeah.
But as far as like if I went to a pub and I ordered like a lager, no, that's not warm. That's chilled. Like I ordered a pint of Guinness. That's like -2 degrees. It even has like a little thermometer on it that says that. So this notion of what the North American audience would typically consider beer, that stuff is served chilled extremely, like ice cold. So yeah,
with very little head on the top.
There's a thing about the American obsession with foam.
Yeah, that's like a third of them. Which
we're definitely not having.
That would be re-poured if you were in a pub here and they did that. You'd get tipped away.
But I will say on like a winter's day, like a proper cask ale that's not chilled is actually quite nice, as opposed to, now it's not like warm, it's just not chilled.
Yeah,
but it's quite nice in comparison to if I got like an ice cold beer in December. I'm not sure I necessarily want that. So I remember when I used to go out on Fridays with people from work, in the winter months, it was ales we would get. Yeah. And then when it starts to get warm, then we switch to lagers because they'll be chilled and that'll be quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to England, and when we were in London, we were drinking Pimm's. We had actual, I had no idea what it was.
What do you think to it?
But we had pictures of it. It was like almost like fruit or some stuff inside of a pitcher.
Oranges, strawberries, cucumber, mint. Yeah.
It's kind of like an alcoholic fruit salad.
Yeah. And then they actually
brilliant.
It wasn't bad. It's not my cup of tea.
That's his polite way of saying didn't care for
it. But my friend actually really liked it, and he's from England, and he lives here, but he really liked it, and then he found it here as well, so it's bottled here.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So we actually all got a bottle of it for Christmas a couple years ago. I still haven't opened it.
I'll tell you, I haven't had Pimm's in years. Got to do Pimm's this summer for sure.
It's a very summer drink.
I'll tell you what, I introduced this lot to Caesars.
You did.
And you want to talk about Tom, you want to talk about trying to sell someone on a drink, because like if you think about what Clamato juice is really made of, like I'm like, no, stick with me, it's good. It sounds rough. Like you actually have pieces of clam. Yes, we have pieces of clam in it, but then we throw Tabasco. So it's okay, it's Tabasco and Worcester sauce. Or I'm
drinking this for pleasure.
If you haven't heard of this before, it's like, this really does sound like the most bizarre thing.
What's that thing you gave us with the celery in it?
That's a Caesar.
That was a Caesar.
You weren't big on that.
I wasn't big on
it.
I liked it, but I don't like celery. So,
but I think even for Canadians,
don't put the celery salt on it.
You either get it or you don't. I think it's the idea. And we'll put like a salty rim on it. Like it really is the strangest. I love them, but it really is the strangest thing.
Yeah, I couldn't get my head around that.
Yeah, that's it's a different drink. Not everybody likes it, but if you introduce it to somebody else, they'd have that same reaction. Like they would just be like, "What am I drinking here?"
It is my Canada Day tradition over here,
and that's like a meal.
That's
like a meal. You're like, whoa, drinking that and eat. Oh,
that's great.
We're gonna take a quick break to show some love to another podcast.
Coming every week on podcast platforms everywhere. A podcast like no other. Listen to John as he talks about comic books, video games, and anything he wants. Every week is a new topic. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll subscribe. Follow the Basement Reload on all social media platforms at Basement Reload and smash that subscribe button. It's time for a reload.
So the next one I have here is the weather, that it is very, very rainy over there.
Depends on where you are.
Exactly. Yeah. It depends, because we've got the Atlantic on one side.
Yep.
And the
North Sea on the other.
Yeah.
Other one.
Yeah.
So the smaller one.
The one
so if you're on the West Coast, which to be fair is really more Wales and Southwest England, but really it's more Wales and even Ireland and whatnot before
and
that.
Get the brunt of it before us.
They'll get the brunt of it. So the part that we're from, if you get to London and go on east, it actually gets less rain than Egypt does. So actually it's really quite dry here. We have a moisture deficit or something like that.
We
I've
do
been
indeed.
told.
And a lot of hosepipe bans.
So actually, there's not that whole stereotype about it rains all the time. It really doesn't. I mean, winters can be kind of gray and miserable.
Yeah,
but we don't get a lot of it'll drizzle, but we don't get a lot of precipitation. Like, so what you see on like the British movies where it's just always raining outside, that's just really kind of the stereotype being played up to for an American audience.
So it's nothing like Lower Uncton.
Like what?
Lower Uncton.
What's Lower Uncton?
You've never watched Married with Children?
Oh, is that the one episode where they go over to and it's dark all the time and
it's rainy and it's dark and
that's a rough episode too. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. That's what they want to make everybody believe, that it's always rainy and dark and in a certain area, right?
Yeah, not in the sort of portion where the majority of English people live. I think it's actually quite. I'm not saying it's sunny. I mean, there's a lot of overcast days, but it's not rainy.
No,
it's usually grey, and if it's raining, it feels like it's raining for ages. But that's because it's not heavy downpours of rain. It's just that fine mist that you step outside and get soaked instantly, but then but it's not really properly chucking it down.
I'll tell you something they really don't have over here, Tom, is they don't have thunderstorms.
Oh, no?
I don't know if it's because it's an island nation and so there's not enough friction between the land and the environment, but those great sort of rocking Canadian thunderstorms don't really happen. So when it does, it's like an event and people go outside and check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
And it'll be over in 15 minutes. Like you don't have those like great ones where you hear it rumbling from miles away. Yeah. So really, it sounds really strange. I miss the thunderstorms from back home.
Yeah, we occasionally get them in the summer, but like they will last maybe half an hour to an hour at most.
That.
And people get excited about them. I know I do. I'm like, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw it, I was at a village hall and everybody came rushing out to watch it. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, it's a thunderstorm. I'm like, yeah, we go inside for those. And they're like,
no, we go outside.
and they really happen so rarely that it is an event.
It is.
Yeah, we get them here, and I love thunderstorms. I don't mind them at all. My dogs freak out with them, but other than that, I mean, I don't mind them at all. So another one here that I have on the list is a kind of a misconception that people have about the Queen over there. And the misconception about the Queen is that there is no power with her whatsoever. She has zero power.
She has advisors.
Technically, yeah.
But if there's something that she's really, really adamant that she will not pass, she will do it.
We had an issue where there was some sort of thing where the Queen could have stepped in just recently if she had so chosen. Now, no monarch has stepped in this way in a while. Like her powers are largely ceremonial, but they still exist.
They do, yeah.
So technically, she has to pass every single law. She has to agree to it.
So she could have jumped in and changed some things. But I think the other one is the idea about the place of the royal family in sort of British culture in general. I mean, I think there's a large number of I think there's a lot of people who kind of question the purpose of the royal family.
Well,
the royal family are quite like Marmite.
I'm a royalist myself.
Are you a royalist?
I am.
Okay.
I've been, all my life.
See,
I believe in it.
Typically, the older generations, that must be you, you're old,
must be.
are typically more royalist. I mean, younger generations are less so. It'll be interesting, especially with sort of what's happened with good old Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
And their sort of split and what it represents for the royal family, what that means going forward once Queen Elizabeth passes, I don't know.
I think there's been talk recently that the time it comes to, I think William will be the last king. And then after that, I think that will start to peter out. So Louis won't be king.
Is his name Louis?
Is it Louis?
George is the older one.
George.
So
Louis sounds awfully French.
Louis is the other.
He shares my. No, Louis is Louis the baby. But
is he?
Yeah, no. George shares my birthday.
You're not going to name the next king of England Louis, are you?
No. But George.
No.
George. I was reading it in the paper not so long ago, and they were listing all these things. And George, they reckon when it comes to George, he won't make it to be king.
Well, I think it's important to note, and this is how the British government and the British culture has not been afraid of sort of living up that stereotype because of the amount of tourism money it generates.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's one reason why I think the royal family will exist in some capacity, it's that. I don't think you want to pass up people coming to London, photographing the palace, and it's a lot easier if you have a sitting monarch rather than just a history book.
And I think a lot of people all over the world, the Queen, she is renowned worldwide, and a lot of people come over for tourism to see her and see the royal family. So without it, I think we'd suffer.
Well, how many things are stable since when did she come into power? Was it the 40s? Yeah, she had her diamond jubilee. So yeah,
no, it's 53.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So just past World War II, she gets into power. And how many things have been constant from 53 to 2021?
Yeah.
Like it's really quite remarkable, you know.
You do wonder if Harry, or it's not Harry, but the other one, William, will have the same effect that Elizabeth has had.
Well,
because I don't think we have that hangover anymore. That, like, when Elizabeth was reigning, that, like, the beginning to reign, it was a very, very different time. Well, I don't know if we get the same applause for William as Elizabeth ever had.
I think they're more savvy. I mean, I think the royal family was on its lowest dip when, like, Charles was the likely successor, and he still will succeed.
He will, yeah.
But his time on the throne, you got to think mathematically, he's not going anywhere near his mom, far from it.
No.
And you look at the obsession and fascination with programs like The Crown on Netflix or that new Diana film to tie it into what we kind of do.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a high public interest still in the royal family, whether it's scandal, whether it's pageantry, whether it's celebration. Look at the TV numbers globally for Harry and Meghan's wedding, William and Kate's wedding. There is an interest in these institutions. The question we were asking now over here is, how much of a price tag are we willing to put on those things? And how much are we willing to foot the bill for those things? How important is that in our lives?
But I
think it's becoming less so.
Yeah, it is becoming less so. But I still believe in it, and I think we should still have a monarch.
And she still has power to, like, suspend parliament and do other things, right?
And that was literally the question that was coming up, was should she suspend parliament? Because I forget exactly what it was, but it was something about, I think, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and some decision that had to come through. And people were saying she really should be calling this. It was something about, I don't know if it was just post-election or what the deal was, and they were trying to rush something through. And like, the Queen can stop this if she so chose.
Yeah.
But, like, no monarch had done this in like 75 or 80 years. So it was like, it's probably not going to happen.
So she's just not done it then.
but she could. But could she have done it from a legal perspective?
Yes.
Absolutely, she
absolutely.
could. And there was part of the population that was like, "Come on, do it." And it's like, well, it ain't going to happen, is it?
No, she has a lot of advisors. So
yeah.
You know.
And there's still that thing, if you ever do meet the Queen, she won't talk to you unless you're sat next to her, and, like, you don't, like, it's all very So
there's a whole bunch of rules about what you do.
Yeah. Like, the Queen will, if she's sat at a table, the Queen will only talk to the people directly next to her. She won't talk to the person over or anything like that. So it's all, and she puts her lipstick on at the table after dinner. It's all very, like, there's some silly little qualities about it that still exist. But again, whether that happens when we have a king and it doesn't, those sorts of things don't necessarily continue on. I don't know. It will definitely be different. And I think we
will have the king putting lipstick on.
National Day of Mourning. National Day of Mourning when she does die. I think we'll all be.
When she does, yeah.
Oh, it won't be. I think it'll be a week. I really do.
Yeah, I do.
I really do.
And I'd, for one, be sad when she goes.
Oh.
I had a letter from her lady.
There will be some people.
There's a lot of people I know that,
like, there's a very dark side, humor-wise, Tom, to, like, some elements of the British people. Like, when Margaret Thatcher died, I mean, I think the thing was, there were people who were like, I think the Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, like, re-entered the charts when
it went to number
Margaret
one.
Thatcher, when Margaret Thatcher died, that re-entered the charts at number one. Like, there was a dark bitterness to some of the, not even humor, but just some of the feelings about, because a lot of people suffered underneath Thatcher. And it's not that thing where you go, okay, well, you mourn the dead. Well, if you didn't like him, you definitely don't over it. Like, it's very, Brits will kind of tell you how they feel.
Yeah, we're not shy in telling you.
No. Whereas I don't think Canada would do that. I think we'd all go, whoever the political figure was, no matter how divisive. When Brian Mulroney dies, I don't think you're going to see ding dong, the king is dead or anything like that re-enter the charts as a result in Canada. No. I think we all go, you say the nice thing. He was a good man. He worked hard for his country, or whatever the liberal Pierre Elliott Trudeau, when he died, you think, the conservatives were still kind of quite measured. Oh, we appreciate what he did for the country,
Yeah.
Over here, very much the opposite.
Yeah.
So that kind of segues into my next misconception, is that there are some similarities between Canadians and the British as well, where people say that there is a niceness of the British. And it's funny because I was talking about this with Sarah from Blackbird and Trish from Gen X. We were talking about in the American episode where they said, if you come to the US, and especially in New York, people have time for nothing. So you cannot stop and say, hi, how are you? Where's the train? You got to stop and say, where's the train? And they'll tell you right away. So they said they're not rude. It's just everyone's in a rush. But the misconception is that everyone is rude there. for us, we always get the Canadians are nice. And I read that it's the same over there. What do you guys think?
I don't think we're as nice. I think we're just more polite for fear of confrontation, because that's probably another one. We do not do confrontation. If there's an issue, you talk about it to your friend and then you just wash over and go, hi, and then you've forgotten about it for the next time. Like, I mean, that's why we're polite.
I mean, London's very like you go to the London Tube, so like the subway, right? Yeah. And it's like state of the right, people are going to run right by you, and they got no problem sort of brushing and pushing by you. If you're in the pass lane on the escalator, they'll sort of give you a little bit of shoulder as they go through, because that's what happens. People are rushing for their train. Yeah. I'll tell you what was really weird was the first time I went to a shop. And you have those sort of microtransactions of communication when you talk to a teller or someone at the checkout or whatever it was. And whereas in Canada, you might get some niceties like, oh, have a great day. Da-da-da-da-da. They go, okay, goodbye. And they move on to the next person. And as a Canadian, I was like, that's so abrupt. That feels rude. Like, what do you mean goodbye? Like, who are you to just end our transaction still ongoing? You're supposed to wish me a good day or I'll see you later. No, it's just goodbye, which feels very final. And I was like, oh, it felt rude, but it was just kind of that thing where in England you go, it's just a bit more direct. I really do believe so.
Yeah.
I think that's also a generational thing though. I've seen a split there in the like older generation of British folk are more likely to be abrupt and tell you goodbye. And will, if you say thank you, they'll be like, you're welcome. And like, that's it. Whereas the younger generations are starting to slip more into the, I guess, more slightly Canadian versions of those and saying things like, oh, no worries, see you later. And like those sorts of more casual greetings.
Maybe, yeah.
I know there's definitely a split between how I talk on the phone professionally to how my mum talks on the phone professionally. So there's definitely a split coming. And I think eventually we will be more the Canadian side than the American side, as it were.
Yeah, well, I can't walk up to anybody and just say, where's the train? Or how do I do this? Or whatever question I have. I always start off with, hey, how you doing? Or how are you?
Yeah, and then to be honest with you. Yeah, like when I call people here, so if I'm on the phone with occasionally, because I have some bank accounts in Canada because I have student loans and whatnot. So if I phone up the help desk at like, Bank of Montreal, Royal Bank, something like that, I might go, hey, how are you? Oh, not bad. How are you? I get on some phone and they go, oh, hey, this is so-and-so, can I help? Hey, how are you? And there's this awkward, like, I'm all right. How are you? And it's supposed to be, no, we're down to brass tacks right away. And it is a little bit more purpose driven or focused or maybe formal. I don't know what the right word to say is, but it's got less niceties than the Canadian version of those transactions.
Oh, okay.
It is really interesting though, because if I had to ask someone where a train was, if I was like had to go up to a member of the public or even like a member of staff in the train station, it would be very much, I'm really sorry, but can you help me? Or I'm really sorry, I can't remember. It would start like that, even though it is their job. If it is like a train warden or whatever, my sentence anyway would start with, I'm really sorry to bother you, but can you help me? Rather than just being train, where is it? Yeah. Like that would not even come into my
No, I just think in Canada you start with hi, how are you? Okay, so I'm having a problem finding. So it was that first hi, how are you? Which we definitely wouldn't do here. There's no way.
No, it'd be like hello, like would be how I would interact with someone, especially when apparently I can't make any words. But yeah. Although I think that might also be a bit of a generational thing as well. I think it is slipping more to more casual, friendly conversation than forced politeness, which I think is the stereotype of Britain over here for the older generations. It's yes, thank you very much. Like it doesn't sound rude, but it's very stiff upper lip. Like this is the point. I'm being polite, but this is the point. Goodbye, kind of thing. Whereas we're slipping more into a casual just discourse of friendliness rather than this. I'm being polite, but only because if I'm not polite, I feel like I have to confront you, and that's not something we like to do either.
We're going to take one more break to help out another podcast.
Hi, my name's Ian.
And I'm Liam.
And we have a film review podcast.
And it's called Best Film Ever.
And we're trying to agree on what's the best film ever. But we don't always agree. You see, I teach film studies.
And I own my own record toy shop.
So I tend to analyze the films a bit more academically.
And I tend to look for the heart.
Yeah, but you think The Crow's a romantic comedy.
Well, there is romance.
Nah.
And there's comedy.
That doesn't count.
So you see, we don't always agree.
But that is what makes it so fun to do.
So that's Best Film Ever.
Give it a listen and we'll catch you on the flippity flap.
The flippity flip flop.
So I know you took some notes, Ian. What do you have on your notes there for some of the misconceptions?
If you believe the rhetoric of Family Guy, I'm going to talk about the fact that British people apparently are supposed to have bad teeth.
I was going to go there.
We're going to go there. I will definitely do that. I will say, as someone who moved from Canada to the UK, there is that. I've heard that Austin Powers makes that joke about bad teeth.
He does, yeah.
Family Guy, the character of Hugh Laurie from House Plays, he always has teeth that are like massively like, overlapping each other and whatnot.
And they have that character, bottom tooth or whatever his name is. He's got that giant jaw on the back and his teeth are all jacked up on Family Guy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So there is this sort of link between British people and bad teeth, but I'll say this much. I mean, having moved from Canada with that sort of misconception over here, I mean, the availability of dental care is, as far as like from an economic standpoint, I remember what it was like to be working a minimum wage job in Canada and going, I don't have dental care. And if I were to go into a dentist, it would cost me an arm and a leg. So there were a couple of years where I didn't go with any sort of checkup of my dental hygiene. Whereas you move here, and I went in for my first thing, and I'm like, do you have, are you subsidized? No, I'm paying the full amount. And the full amount was so little, I kind of had a bit of a laugh. I went, you're joking, right? So
it was under 20 quid, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was so cheap. And so it's accessible. And so that idea that, for some reason in Canada, the acceptance is, yeah, we have universal health care, but don't count glasses and don't count teeth in that. And for some, I don't know why that is. Like, those aren't parts of your body that require good health. I mean, dental health is so important to the health and the rest of your body, full stop.
It is, yeah.
So it's bizarre. And so as we go on and as dental care becomes a privilege of those with good jobs or the wealthy in Canada, I think this adage of, and in States as well, I think this adage of the British as being the ones with the back teeth, I think that's going to flip because I have yet to see somebody who sort of fills that stereotype over here, Tom, whereas back home, I knew quite a few people. So I think that one's definitely a misconception that is definitely not deserving to exist anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and
I did read
it's a lot.
I did.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I did a little bit of research as well, and this one popped up for me. And underneath the research was that I think about 92% of American adults have got some form of tooth decay, whereas 28% of British adults have got some form of tooth decay. And so I kind of went, yeah, no, it's definitely more. I don't know whether it's more socially unacceptable to have bad teeth here, and so we don't let it happen as much. Like, we have adverts on the TV all the time and on like YouTube videos that are like, bleeding gums could be a sign of tooth decay. Like, and that is very prominent over here, is those sorts of adverts. But what we don't have the prominence for is flossing. Like, we know that's a thing, but very rarely does anyone actually do it. Like, I don't think I've ever flossed my teeth.
I have not thought about that, but you're 100% right on that.
Yeah.
Flossing.
But I've got quite nice teeth, I like to think. Like, mine are quite straight. I never had to have braces. But have I flossed a day in my life? No. Like, that is not something I've ever done.
I have, but yeah, I think it's something I definitely did much more often when I was in Canada than I am here. That's a great thought. I hadn't considered that.
No, I hadn't.
Do you think it's actually an American thing that they're making fun of and using a different country to pass it off on? Like, they'll say, even in The Simpsons, it's like, was it Prince Charles? They would make fun of, and his teeth are all over the place. Yeah. And Family Guy does it, like you said, and like they make fun of the British all the time. I don't know where this kind of misconception came from.
I think it is dated. I think there was a time when dental care wasn't as highly regarded or whatever. I was speaking to a friend recently, and they mentioned how England was populated heavily by like Australian dentists who would come over here and like get paid by the fillings. They would fill all these people's teeth whether they needed it or not. So there seemed to be a shortage in qualified dentists back in the day. So even in the Austin Powers film, I think it's Liz Hurley's character who tells Austin, there've been some wonderful advancements in the world of dentistry. So it suggests that it was a time and place, but we've moved on from there as a society. But the sort of stereotype that was generated will live on, and inaccurately.
In the same bit of research, I think it was, that I was looking at teeth, there was something that suggested that it might even come from like early settlers into America. Whereas, because if they've been on boats for months with very little good food or whatever, their teeth would be all rubbish and jacked up and that sort of stuff. And the conception that all British people have bad teeth has come across and lasted all of that time, because no one has ever thought to correct it. And I think it's a bit of fun for them to think that we've all got bad teeth.
And we all like feeling we're better than someone else. If you think about the history of America and the desire to sort of separate yourself from those
America and England,
America and England. There is that kind of concept of, well, let's find something to sort of make ourselves audience superiority. Let's make ourselves better than those people. We can pick on this.
Yeah.
Teeth. So, we're going with teeth.
4 p.m. tea time. Misconception or not?
Yeah.
Misconception at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
There's not any sort of formal time for like tea time. It's not everything stops for tea at 4. But I will say this, the idea that tea is the miracle cure-all definitely exists.
Wait, are we having a bit of a thing here? We're talking the other type of tea, aren't we?
Yeah, so tea time as in dinner, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you call it tea, Georgia? Is it tea time at your house? Oh, is it really?
Breakfast, dinner, tea. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
Yeah.
'Cause dinner is, when I was living in Suffolk as a boy, lunchtime.
Oh, there's a Norfolk-Suffolk divide on this.
Yeah, lunchtime, well, lunchtime was dinner. That part was true. Lunchtime was dinner. I think we had dinner and we had supper, but that might have been because we were North American. But dinner was, school dinners was the name of it, right?
Yeah.
So over here, supper is a separate thing again. So if we were
I
going
would love
by,
it if I was home at 4 o'clock and was like food time. Jeez.
if we were going by my family's kind of like food, as it were, you have breakfast and then you'd have a morning snack, which is sometimes 11s, and then you'd have your dinner, and then you'd have 11s, and then you'd have afternoon tea, which is like little sandwiches and cakes, and then you'd have your tea, and then you'd have supper after that. Supper is like 9 p.m.
Yes. Yeah, it's a late night. But that's that feels a very posh kind of structure, but seems to have been thrown away with modern life, doesn't it?
I think it has to a certain degree, but just the 3 main ones have stuck.
I mean, this just sort of suggests
anyway.
An era back when mom was at home and, you'd get home and there's tea waiting for you at 4 o'clock, right? And then you'd have the supper at no one in a modern working world can sort of get home and get any food prepared for 4 o'clock, let alone dainty little sandwiches.
Most people do it between 5 and 6 these days.
Yeah.
But the place at tea, I'm going to go back to that for a minute.
Oh, we're going back to tea, are we? Okay.
Back to the place at tea. I mean, I remember getting some terrible news, and I was living with a colleague, mate of mine, and I said, I've got this news. Here, I'll put the kettle on. I'll get you a cup of tea. Yeah. And it really is like tea is that thing, for if you have bad news, you get a cup of tea and you just sort of talk, you don't talk, but tea needs to be present because that is sort of the cultural language it's
like an icebreaker.
You're going through a hard time.
Yeah.
Tea step 1. We can talk about it if you want, but tea is step 1.
It's a bit like smoking.
Absolutely.
You're using your hands and stuff to smoke. So when you're trying to work through an emotion,
it gives you something to look at.
Give you something to focus on. Yeah.
So, but I will call BS on the idea that Tetley has anything to do with good tea, which I think is the adage in Canada that, it's Tetley's the British tea. And it's very much not. Tetley would be my 4th choice, I think.
No, that's my first choice.
Tetley,
yeah.
Really?
I'm a Tetley tea man.
I just went through this giant thing about Tetley tea, and then you come and just cut my legs out.
I did, yeah, because I'm a Tetley man.
You're supposed to be afraid of confrontation. What are we doing here? I don't know. I mean, I could name stuff, but it would be stuff they wouldn't have heard of over in Canada. So, yeah.
Afraid of confrontation until we're with our close friends, and then we will absolutely rip the ever-loving out of them, because that is also what we do.
There is something in Britain called the wind-up, which I think is unique to Britain, where you will purposely agitate someone by feeding them false information until they emotionally react, and that is the source of humor.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what would you call it? If it wasn't friendly, you would call it gaslighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it's friendly, you get away and just say, it's just a wind up, innit? I'm just purposely winding you up. Hopefully, my goal is to make you react emotionally volatile.
Yanking your chain.
But like the enjoyment comes from everybody else and watching you lose it. And I think that's very British. It's very strange.
Oh, I do that to my wife all the time.
It will be an organized thing between people, though. It's so odd here.
Just today at work, I was heading to the canteen to get my lunch, and one of the ladies who's in the office with me, she was round the corner slightly, and she went, Georgia. And then I was still in the office talking to one of the other girls, and she went, I just wanted to see how far you'd get if I shouted you before you'd come back. And so then a couple of minutes later, when I did actually leave the door, I just hear out of from behind the other desk, Georgia, come here. And I just went, no, and carried on because I knew she just wanted a reaction from me. I'm like, no, I'm not falling for it. You've already told me what you're trying to do. But I think that's probably quite an English British thing to purposely wind someone up, even if it isn't like in a very good natured way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think those are the ones that I have. I know you still have some more there, Ian.
I got at least one big one I want to hit.
Okay.
There is this misconception, and definitely a misconception amongst Canadians, and I think Americans as well, that for Britain that the food is bland.
Yeah.
The food is without flavor. The British are afraid of spice. I heard boiled chicken a lot. And there's this adage that somehow if you come here, the food is bland. And I'm going, the scope of the British Empire, the agency and ability to spices and flavors from around the world. And how would you not bring that home?
Do you know what I think the misconception comes from? During the war, people used to boil a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And they'd boil it to the brink. I mean, my nan, bless her, she used to boil everything. So that just fell to bits. And I think that's probably where that misconception
Especially
comes
because
from.
all the good stuff, like all the meats and stuff, would be sent off to the front.
Yeah.
And you had to eat meat once a week. That was the Sunday roast dinner. That's why Sunday roast still exists. Because that was sort of the one day you would sort of permit the society to eat meat, proper meat.
Did you also know carrots was not there was one of the only things that wasn't rationalized?
Rationed,
yeah.
Rational carrots.
Can't rationalize with a carrot.
You know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
That's a good job. Friend.
And so you've got all these sort of like things about, what the spice palette is of. I tell you this much. I lived in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. It's a fairly large city, one Indian restaurant for a city of like 200,000 people.
Wow.
Here, every small town has an Indian restaurant, if not more than one.
Yeah.
Like it's probably more popular than Chinese restaurants are, Tom, in Canada. And so, or it's along that line. And so you think about the spice palette and the extremities that can happen in the Indian sort of cuisine.
Yeah.
Where you can have your bland kind of korma sort of stuff, but you can also have your crazy vindaloos. And the fear that the Canadians have about that level of sort of spice, for whatever reason that is. Now, granted, they don't have their suicide hot buffalo wings, which I do love. I absolutely do love. But as far as the idea that somehow the Brits are afraid of spice, I have no idea how that came about.
Probably because we like to eat beans on toast.
Oh, there are some. I'll say this much.
We like beige food as well.
That's not entirely wrong. Now that I've said this, I remember I was helping someone move, and they went, "Oh, I get a sandwich." I said, "Well, what's in that one?" They went, "Cheese," and I went, "Well, cheese and what?" They went, "No, cheese."
Cheese.
Bread, cheese, and bread. And I went, well, really, cheese is more of an additional thing that you add to an existing sandwich. It's like ham, mustard, cheese, maybe a bit of that's a sandwich. But no, just some grated cheese and bread.
Or
and I'm
ham.
going, oh.
Or just ham.
Or just ham.
Just ham. That is a sandwich flavor in the shop. Like if you go into
ham.
a shop and buy a like packaged sandwich, it says the words just ham. That is something that we have.
Like you go into like the equivalent of a Walmart, and we have something here called Tesco.
Yeah.
And they've got like pre-packaged sandwiches, like a whole display of them already. It's the greatest thing. It is it's so good. I've made it the thing. I'm not letting myself have any of them this year. That is my this year. I always have one thing, and it's no box sandwiches in 2021 because it's just so easy to go in and go, I'll just grab one of those. It makes you so lazy, but the selection is fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially because a meal deal is £3. And then you kind of go, oh, box sandwich is £2.50, but you can get a drink and a snack for £3. Well, of course, I'm going to get all three. Like, that's
that might be
just silly not to.
That's on my list of misconceptions is I hear a lot in Canada. Oh, it's so expensive to live in England, though. It really is not. When I go home and visit my parents and stuff at Christmas, I go to a grocery store and just want to fall over at how much the food prices have inflated in the last 5-10 years.
So is that the same in Canada as in America with the tax being put on afterwards?
Yes.
See,
that's insane to me. Yeah, that you don't know what you're actually paying until you get to the till. That blows.
Yeah. Well, you do if you do the math in your head along the way.
We've gotten
so why would they not just put it on the labels?
What is it? Is it 13% now?
Yes, 13.
Yeah. So you get very good at going, okay, it's £6, $6, and then 13 at $6.78 because you get good at realizing what your multiples of 13 are, and you go, all right, it's this. But you don't do any of that, Tom. Here, the price is boiled into the sticker already. Yeah. So you kind of can go around and go, if you get any decent at math, you can go, I know exactly what I'm paying when I get up there.
Yeah.
Well, my wife hates it because I'll go into the Walmart and we'll do the groceries, and we get to the the cash register, and I'm literally between 1 and 3 cents off. And she was like, "How are you doing this?" I'm like, "I'm just counting as we're going."
Yeah, Carol Vorderman.
Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't know who that is.
Who's that?
Carol Vorderman.
Carol Vorderman.
Yeah, definitely a cultural specific thing here.
She's a mathematician.
She's a famous mathematician, which sounds really strange.
Because she's also a famous model.
She's like a celebrity, but she's also like Carol Vorderman's a model.
Who's the new one?
Rachel Riley's what you're talking about, right?
Oh, am I okay?
Yeah, Carol Vorderman's like 60-something years old.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she was.
She could still be a model at 67, right?
But
Absolutely.
there are these weird people who are like, she's famous because she's good at math.
Yeah.
And then you got, what's her name? Susie, is it Susie Dent?
Yes.
Who's famous because she knows a lot of words.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen back home.
Dictionary corner.
Also, here, maths as an S on the end.
Oh, math with an S on it.
Yeah.
And sport without the plural. So it's the sport section, singular, as opposed to sports. And then, I'm going to maths, plural, rather than math, which is what we would say back in Canada.
Yeah, going to maths class, because there's more than one math.
And do you also swap the Z and S's?
We do halfway. We're not quite the Americans, but we're not quite not. But we keep the U's.
You keep the U's, don't you? Yeah.
So color, neighbor, wherever you on those. But spelling tire, Tyre, what are you? A bunch of maniacs? Come on.
That is how tire is spelled.
No, it is not.
It is.
Well, how do you spell fire?
Oh, very good.
F-I-R.
You do F-I-R-E for that. Yeah. Yeah.
But to tire is T-I-R-E, but that's a different type of tire. That is pronounced differently, at least in my vocabulary. They're two different words.
Okay.
Yeah, so a tire on a car is a tire, whereas if I am tired and I have tired, it's not as.
I know you think you're making two different sounds, but
it sounds different to me. The E and the Y are
this
different.
Is one where
sounds different to me.
A North American audience is going,
Liam.
I don't hear a difference between those two whatsoever.
I do.
Liam does.
I do.
All right.
But it's funny, actually, in our chats that we have for the PodVcom, I always have the U in there, and I constantly reiterate that this is how you spell it, because the rest of them are Americans. It's myself and Ian that are like Canadian or half Canadian, right? And I'll always put the U in there. And they'll be like, that's not how you spell it. It's not like, you don't spell it with a U. And I'm like, you absolutely do.
No, it's how the rest of the world spells it. That's Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Britain. We all spell it with the U. What's the deal, America? That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Going back to the food, though, was actually have a funny story about that is my friends who were originally from England, they're Indian, but we had gone to England a couple of days early from our vacation. Like we were starting a Kentucky tour is what they called it. And we went a few days early, and we went to their family's house first, and we stayed at their family's house for a couple of days. And then we started the Kentucky tour, and then went to another family's house at the end of the tour as well. And me not being like the spicy guy, like I don't like spices as like very, very hot.
Me either.
We went into their house and they ordered
Canadian
Indian
didn't like
food.
Spice.
Yeah. And they ordered Indian food, but without even asking me, they ordered a pizza because they were like, he's not going to eat Indian food. And I was like, what's this for? And they were like, that's for you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that is interesting. And my friend started laughing. He's like, I told them you don't like spicy food.
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah, being friends with
Indian food is great.
Being friends with these two is not easy because they will make food that they think is not spicy. Ian in particular was like, "Oh yeah, we made some ribs. We have to sit down and watch the football and have some ribs. I made these. They're not spicy at all. I didn't put this on." And I started eating them and went, "I'm really sorry. My eyes were streaming. My nose was streaming." I was like, "I can't. I'm not going to even waste them because I can't eat them. You guys eat them." I ordered a take away.
So Liam was just like you. We used to go to Indian restaurants, and Liam would ask for like chips or French fries, and I don't know, something else that wasn't very spicy. And myself and the waiter would make fun of him.
They would.
And now you're a converted man.
I am.
You are.
Yeah, just in a few years.
There we go.
I could do the butter chicken and the naan and
butter chicken. Give me some ketchup for your wings while we're at it.
You joke. I like salad cream and mayonnaise with chicken, but that's a different matter. I tried to do spicy the other day. I had the sweet chili chicken from the canteen at school, and my nose was running for the rest of the afternoon. So that's about as good as I am. But yeah, it tasted nice. I like the taste of spice. I just can't do the heat. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's I think I get it from my mom. My dad can eat anything spicy. My mom can't eat a thing. She can't eat, like, black pepper is too spicy for her.
That's fine. So that I kind of go, no.
He can have anything.
Pretty much. I go to the Indian restaurant. I'm like, what do you got? They even come by and check on me and go, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's nice. Good job. When it starts to be like a little like contingent of like waiters watching you eat, you're like, this must be really something because they're checking on me.
I got a nurse on standby.
All right. So Liam or Georgia, do you guys have anything else that you guys hear sometimes from outsiders, from Canadians, Americans, whoever's traveling over to England over there? Do you have anything that you hear that you usually hear actually that is a misconception?
Yeah, go on, Georgia.
No, you go on. I've got more of a question for Tom and Ian. So you go ahead and I'll ask that in a minute.
A lot of people around the world consider us quite prudish, and I don't think that's the case at all. We're very open about stuff. Okay, we might do it behind closed doors, but we're very open and talk about stuff. Where I think America and Canada aren't so open and more prudish than us. So yeah, that's what I think.
I am not a prude at all. I can tell you that right now. I'll tell you straight to your face. I don't give two shits what I say to anybody. So.
Yeah, I see. It's my interpretation was to say, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think we're prudish, and we're not.
I think there is kind of like especially certain regionalities in America where, you know, and part of that's a generational thing as well. The idea of being afraid of talking about sexual matters,
Yeah.
I don't know if Canada falls into that, but again, I think it's a generational thing largely. I think Brits are just a little bit hypersensitive about people thinking they are.
Oh yeah, we are sensitive as anything. Like we take anything slightly the wrong way. You like say, "Oh, thanks very much," in the wrong way, and we are holding a grudge for the next 3 days. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I think it's because we have a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor and way of talking to people. And if people then flip that on us and are really polite in the way they speak, we go, are you being sarcastic? Like, we can't then differentiate. Like, we need the sarcastic tone to be able to tell that you're being sarcastic.
I think someone in the English composition specifically doesn't know how to process like genuine niceness, and you go, "What's your angle? You can't be legitimate. There's a bit of a dubious nature."
Oh yeah, none of us take compliments well either.
No, that's 100% true. That is 100% true.
So bad. We don't give them well, and we don't take them well.
You're rubbish at giving them, and you're not very good at taking them either. I'll 100% give you that. So, yeah.
but why is that?
No idea. It's just not something that I don't know whether it's again, I think it is starting to slip slightly. I don't know whether we've like my parents or whatever aren't very good at compliments, bless them. But like, which meant I haven't grown up in that sort of environment of very openly verbally loving. Like that's not something that we do. That is shied away from. That is like, no, don't talk about that sort of thing. We don't like that is not how we talk. I think I'm getting better. But it's very strange.
I was speaking to a colleague recently and said, I don't really think I'm that Canadian in the grand scheme of things. I think I'm more of a hybrid. And they went, you are the most Canadian person I have ever met. And I went, what, really? And it came down to, you compliment people all the time and you mean it. Yeah. And occasionally, and you know how to take one, but really, you're just really forthcoming with this praise for people. And that is the least British thing I know. And I went, oh, okay. Didn't know.
We can't take that quality out of the Canadian.
No, I think, if we genuinely like something or someone, we will comment on that verbally. Why wouldn't you?
Do you know, the very first time I went to America, I went on my own at 22, right? And bearing in mind, I've only left England once at that time.
So this was just last year then?
Yeah, no. So, yeah. So
see, you can't even take that as a compliment. Like that was a backhanded. That was a backhanded. So you're young, and he just went and froze.
Yeah. So anyway, I fly to America on my own. I get into LA, and everyone's been so nice. But my immediate thought is, what are they after? What do they want?
Oh, really?
And I stood there for a good 15, 20 minutes. Just watch people and seeing how they interact with people, because I didn't trust anything. Why would a complete stranger be so nice? And then I found out, because I was there for a little while, I'd go into a bar and people would offer to buy me drinks and stuff. I'm like, what's your angle? What are you after? What do you want? And I think that's part of the British culture to question.
We're
everything.
scared to owe people things as well. Like, so if someone offers to like buy you a drink, you go, okay, as long as I can buy you one afterwards. Like, we don't like being in debt to people, even like buy a drinks round. That's not okay.
My round next. Yeah. My round next. Make sure everyone else was my round next.
But what if it was the opposite sex or whatever it was trying to buy you a drink out at a bar? Is that the same kind of concept as well?
For me, that's a bit of a okay. What do you want? But I don't know whether it's the same way around for women trying to buy men drinks. That might be a gendered thing. I'm not really sure.
I think it's a gendered thing. I think because we tend to buy drinks for women more than women buy drinks for men, and I just think it's built in us. To do that. I think
that's unique geographically. That's pretty much
and that's times are changing as well. Like you said, it's a generational thing. So women are tending to.
Well, there's that, and there's also just a matter of public safety. And if you don't know someone well enough, the idea of someone buying you a drink could not only be what do you want, but it could be what do you want.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
And the idea about don't take a drink that you didn't purchase yourself, or don't get a drink that you didn't see from start to finish.
Yeah, that is a heavy,
heavy
female. Like, that is something you learn as a young girl,
mechanism, if you will.
Very, very early. So you don't take drinks from someone, don't take rides from someone, don't take numbers from people, don't do all of these. Carry your keys in your hands. Like, these are things that we know.
But there's the whole strategy, even that if you go to the bar staff here and you say you ask for a drink
for Angela. Yeah.
Angela, that's it. If you ask for Angela, that's a code for the bartender that you're in trouble and they need to contact authorities or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a taxi. Yeah. I forget exactly what it is, but yeah, it is like a sort of program.
It's a trigger. Yeah, it's a triggered word for I'm not safe. Help me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's a different time from like about 20 years ago. I mean, you could go to a bar when I used to go on the club scenes and go to the bar scenes in my 20s. You could no problem. Like, it was no problem to buy a drink for a female or another person at the bar. It didn't matter who you were buying it for. There was no issues with it whatsoever.
Like, I mean, I've bought people drinks, and if I've had a couple myself, I tend to get buy that guy a drink. Just some guy. I remember we had a staff Christmas party, and there was some guy who was just sort of like there, but I went, buy him a drink. Go on. he just kept sharing with us, and I just thought, like, we didn't want to hear it, but I still thought, let's just. It was kind of a wind up, if you will, as we said. It's kind of a wind up for the rest of my coworkers. I'm going to buy him a drink, make him stick around more. So I think there is still spirits of that, but I think you have to quickly go, who am I around? What's my situation?
If it's a group thing. Yeah. If it's someone buying a drink for a group and you're included in that.
Or if you're with friends where you feel safe.
Yeah. Then you're like, yeah, of course. Okay. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Because people are there to watch.
Yeah, but if it's a one-on-one thing, then at least for me, that would be a strong, I'm walking away. Like, that would throw me completely.
That's fair. That's fair. So you had a question for Ian and I, Georgia.
I did. And it's a bit of I don't know if it's a Canadian stereotype or what it is. Wow. Do you really keep milk in bags?
Yes.
we don't keep it like we found the milk and we store it in the bag of our own volition. It's just how it's sold in like these bladders. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane. And do you have like special jugs to put them in?
Yes. Hang on, because if you've been to Costa, if you haven't been to Costa,
they do them. Yeah.
That's exactly how it looks in Canada. There is this like metal, not metal, but you
have that at home?
Kind of. Yeah, that's what you would have at home. That's how you would store it.
Oh, really?
Because then you don't have to worry about it standing up in your fridge. You can lay down. Absolutely. So,
but once it's open, then what do you do with it?
Well, then it's in like this little carrying jug, just like it is at Costa, like we said.
You just cut the little corner off.
What if you knock it over?
But I'll tell you what, there is a skill when you're growing up to learn how much of it you cut off. Because you cut off too little and it's just like a stream that lasts forever. You're trying to fill your cereal, but you cut off too much and it just comes all flying out and the bag goes limp and it's all over the countertop.
See, that's what I imagine it being like all of the time. Like, you knock that jug, it's going everywhere. And by the time it's in a jug, why don't you just put the milk in a jug?
About 1.33 liters.
We've had that question. We've had that question actually about why not just put it into the jug instead of putting it in the bag.
In the bag, in the jug. That
Yeah.
Well, no, because then at least it's like if it's in the bag, it's like 99% protected from contamination. You just have it randomly in a jug.
So is it in a jug?
Sorry? No, it's
You
not.
can put a lid on a jug.
We don't have lids for the jugs. I mean, come on, let's not be ridiculous here. What are you doing?
Yes, that was actually a big one that we had on the American show. They were asking about the milk bags, and they said they don't understand, like, why not a carton or why not the milk jug, with the cap on it? It makes no sense to have milk bags. That's just the way it was processed here.
Here, I just got to throw a couple things in here quickly,
Madness.
because I know Georgia will back me up on this, just as a little Canadian sort of trope thing. Georgia, I'm going to say, just want your opinion on something. All dressed ruffles.
Oh, so good. My favorite.
All dressed ruffles are.
You can't get them over here.
You
And
cannot
you guys
get them over here.
They have ketchup chips, right?
You can get them, but not very
Ian
much.
brought some over. Ketchup Doritos. Oh my God. They are the best thing in the world.
Last time I went home, I sort of bought a whole bunch of stuff. We had a little tasting night here, and I had like Wonder Bars and ketchup. I think ketchup Lay's, but also ketchup Doritos, Coffee Crisp, Caesars.
Yeah,
The Caesars didn't go over so well. Crispers.
I know, I quite like them
yeah.
without the celery.
Yeah, so with celery salt. Yeah. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but yeah, the all dressed Doritos, all dressed Ruffles. I'm under strict instructions. I would need them. I love them.
Every time you go.
And dill pickle. Oh, dill pickle
Yeah.
crisp. Look at that. I'm saying your language. Here we go.
It's funny because I sent Sarah the ketchup chips because they had never had them either.
Yeah.
And then Matthew Moy, who was the guy I had on from Two Broke Girls, who played Han Lee on Two Broke Girls there, he said that he wanted somebody to send him ketchup chips. So I ended up sending him ketchup chips as well. And he's in California. So he just got them, I believe, on Sunday. And he's going to do like a live opening of the chips today, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
I do miss. You can get them if you go to certain Asda, and Asda is owned by Walmart.
It is, yeah.
I know if I
Yeah.
go to the Asda in Cambridge, I can buy bags of ketchup crisps.
Oh, okay.
Really?
But that's a long way to
I might have
go,
to go
just for
then.
that.
Yeah. That's a train right away.
I would much rather just, there's specialty like import sort of websites over here, but I can get stuff delivered. So I tend to do that a couple times a year. I break down and I buy a bunch of Canadian food, like Lipton's onion soup mix for dipping Ruffles in. That is fantastic. But yeah, things that you miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff here that we like. And if I was not here, I would miss greatly.
Yeah.
One thing I miss when I go abroad is my Sunday dinners, my Sunday roast.
Because that is part of the British tradition here is the Sunday roast.
Yeah.
Oh, I get like scathing looks from people I work with because we very rarely have a roast at home.
Oh, really?
Like we will probably have it in the winter months, maybe once or twice a month.
So
In the summer, like never. So
that
yeah,
traditionally,
I get.
is that traditionally roast beef?
Yeah.
Roast beef, roast
Beef,
potatoes,
chicken.
veg,
Yeah.
Yeah, chicken, pork.
veg gravy,
Yeah.
Yorkshire pud.
Yorkshire pudding, yeah.
All right.
And what about the
Yeah.
English breakfast? I hear that one as well.
Oh, you know what?
Oh,
We don't. It's not what always happens, but you want a good fry up, or you want a good, like I've been out the night before. A full English is fantastic. It's one of my favorite parts about living here. If I'm being honest.
apart from black pudding. I can't stand
No, I'm not a
pudding.
big black pudding guy, but you have like your thick rashers of bacon,
Yeah, sausages.
some sausage, some
eggs.
beans, some eggs, some toast.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Tomatoes,
Some potato.
mushrooms, maybe some
Hash browns.
fried
Hash
toast.
browns.
Yeah.
Fried toast. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we go to
Yeah,
the
a cup of
English
coffee.
pubs to watch the soccer game sometimes. And they'll serve those English breakfasts. That's what we'll always order.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Do you like them?
What's that?
Do
Sorry?
you like the full English?
The full English? Yeah. The
Yeah.
pudding, not so much, but
Yeah,
the
I
rest
don't
of
either.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
The big
If you go
scabs.
I went to Scotland once. I was just getting I was just doing an overnight layover on my way to Canada. I had to go through Edinburgh. Never again. Not because I didn't like Edinburgh. Edinburgh's great, but an overnight layover. I don't have that in me anymore. Sleeping in an airport, no thanks.
No.
But I went to like one of the chain pubs they have over, and they offered a full Scottish, and I was like, "What's a full Scottish?"
Is that haggis?
It's the same as a full English, but you replace the black pudding with haggis.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is so." I had it. I like haggis. I don't know. That's just me.
you?
I really do. Yeah,
You've got a bit of Scottish in you.
I do. Yeah.
Because you often slip into a Scottish accent.
What?
You'll do that over anything
But
else.
like a Mike Myers in Shrek Scottish accent. It's not good.
It's like one of the few I can do. Like a Canadian doing a bad Scottish accent, like, you know, Shrek fat bastard. He's been doing it. That's what my people do. We just no.
Yeah, because Mike Myers is Canadian, isn't he?
He is Canadian.
Yeah.
One of the other great Canadian tropes is reminding everybody who famous is Canadian. So,
oh my God.
Watching something, I'll go,
Ian does not stop it.
there's so many of us. That's how I gotta say.
Doing a film podcast is a nightmare. It's like Canadian. I'm like, okay, I get it.
The Canadian content.
Like, he's Canadian.
Yep.
That infiltrating the world.
Yeah, I think so. Undercover all the
They
time.
hide in plain sight. That's why. Yeah.
They do.
I think we're doing well for ourselves.
I think so. Yeah.
You're doing all right.
Yeah.
There's that great story of the guy who's playing, I think it's Shen-Chi or whatever like that in the new Marvel film.
Yeah.
Shen-Chi and the Seven Rings or whatever it is. And he's of Asian Canadian descent. And so they asked him and he went, like, how excited are you to be sort of fulfilling this role in the Marvel universe? I said, you know what? I'm really excited that for the first time ever, I get to represent a community who has not been featured in Marvel films. And they went, oh, this is the Asian population? He went, no, Canadians. Which I thought was great. Now, obviously, he was talking about the former, but
of course.
that's what we do. What we do best. A nice little sarcastic sense of humor, but in a friendly way, not like you people are mean sometimes.
I've been called mean before when I've been slightly tipsy. And
yes.
And Ian called me mean, and I was going, I didn't mean to, because at this point I'm quite sloshed. And I'm going, I wasn't meaning to be mean. I'm so sorry.
This is the country of Ricky Gervais, who, bless him, he's funny, but he's mean.
Yeah, but he's mean funny because
that's the thing. You guys do mean funny.
Yeah,
we don't do mean funny.
It's close to, I love watching how, like when he does these awards, I love watching the American actors and actresses and stuff like that.
Because no one ever tells them to do it like it is.
And their faces like Tom Hanks. You ever watch Tom Hanks' reaction to his things? One of the most likable guys in Hollywood. And he's like...
Wasn't Tom Hanks in Groundhog Day? Was it Tom Hanks?
Somewhat, yeah.
Well done.
Absolutely. Some of that world famous face blindness.
Face blindness, yeah. But I just love watching people's reactions to stuff like that. Because he means none of it.
One more thing I've just remembered because I said sloshed. We have so many words for drunk. Like Trolleyed. You can literally put anything in that gap and we know what you mean. Jammed, dodgered, absolutely hammered, like trolleyed.
Canada, we've got hammered, drunk, shit-faced.
Sloshed. I've used slosh before.
Have you sloshed? Okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
I think that's a bit of something that's moved over a little bit, but yeah.
You can put anything in there, like
smash,
and we know what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, I was out with the boys. I got chocolate brownied.
I got
you know what I mean? Like
absolutely door framed.
Yeah,
like
as long as you put a D on the end, then it's a verb, kind of.
That's funny.
We all know what it means. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to wrap up this episode. So thank you so much for joining us today. We had Georgia, and we had Ian, and we had Liam from Best Film Ever. Do you guys want to give out your socials? You guys actually have 2 shows that you guys do. So go ahead and plug both of those.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we do Best Film Ever, which you can get us at Best Film Ever Pod. That's on the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Gmail, all Best Film Ever Pod. And then we have our sister podcast where we do a bunch of Disney content called Talking the Mickey. You can get us on Instagram and Facebook at Talking the Mickey, or you can get us on Instagram at Talk the Mickey, because Talking the Mickey is one too many characters. Yes, that's Twitter. Yes, so Talk the Mickey on Twitter, but Talking the Mickey on everything else.
Wow.
And that's our socials. Yeah.
And guys, I'm being serious when I say this. I am a huge fan of your guys' show. I listen to both of them, actually, Talk the Mickey and Best Film Ever. I'm trying to get some of the people in my neighborhood to listen to it as well. I talk about it all the time, and I'll tell them to say, like, go and listen to this, and they'll say, well, is it a movie? What kind of a movie podcast is it? And I listen to the Rewatchables and different other movie podcasts, and I was like, no, this one is a good podcast. You need to go and listen to it. So I'm trying, I'm pushing it here. So
hey, appreciate that. Love PodJerky. Loved the Ken Shamrock. I know George is super excited to go check out the gentleman from Two Broke Girls.
Yeah,
He's really quite psyched.
I found that out and went, what?
Yeah.
I'm only like 3 degrees of separation from Kat Dennings. What?
Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, I want to get Kat Dennings on the show. I'm going to try and reach out to her. And, Matthew was actually saying she's very, very, like she's an introvert. So she doesn't really do too many of these kind of interviews. And then I found out that she's in WandaVision. And I was like, you know what? There is no way she is coming on the show at this point right now.
Because, her availability just eliminated itself. She is back in the biggest show on entertainment right now.
At the moment,
Yeah,
if you do ever get her and you want another guest host, then please let me know.
Yes, definitely. I am going to go after Beth Bears, though. I'm going to try her and see if I can get her.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But
if you are into WandaVision on Talk the Mickey, we are doing an episode by episode breakdown of WandaVision each episode. So that's Talk the Mickey.
And I will not listen to it until I'm done watching WandaVision because I have not started it.
No, absolutely. It's a good watch, but if you want to be one of those people who waits for the whole thing, I totally get that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so everybody tune in to Talk to Mickey and Best Film Ever. I am Tom, and I was just joined by Ian, Liam, and Georgia. Go check out their show. I will put their social media in the show notes. And as always, stay safe, be kind to each other, and we will see you later.
Peace.
Here we go now! Play that beat!
PodJerky.